So, Mr. Azanbelo said he's not too good at protocols, and I think I'm a learner on that as well. So, I would say that I stand on existing protocols. Um, so, when I was called about this event, I was like, okay, I don't just do those kind of things. I need to read about this organization and everything that was being done. And I had further conversation with the person that called me. I think her name was Isbola. So, okay. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead with it. And receiving further information about it, he said, okay, gender equality, very fantastic. I think that's what we want to see and where we want to be in Nigeria. And whatever I'll be talking about will be more about my space, which is the maritime sector. Having worked in that space for many years, I think I'm a learner when I'm talking about maritime with Chief Mrs. Ezenwa. Thank you very much for laying the foundation for many of us. So I would like to talk about a couple of things, not really presentation like that, but more like speaking to a couple of points, especially to speak to most of us women. And we that are younger generation, I'm in my mid-age, maybe approaching the 50s. So one of the major points around gender equality, I think the previous speakers have spoken about it. We women with this sense of entitlement, I think we need to brace up for more, right? It was said before that when the man is making 100% effort, we women will have to make 300% to be on the same level. Yeah, I think that has been my journey. So having worked in shipping and maritime for about 2 decades. I think I've made several observations, which is very related to the topic of today, around digitalization and upscaling capacity in digital economy. In that space, plus the maritime, I think we are almost, we're crawling. I think there's been a lot of efforts that has been made, a lot of comments, a lot of things that we read in the papers. And I think we're still playing lip service compared to the waste that we have in that sector. I would first take on the gender equality side of things. And Mr. Bello has said it when he said it has to be based on excellence and it has to be on merit. Okay, so I can remember many years back when I wanted to move from shipping to port operations. It was based on my experience in the shipping industry, where towards the end of the year, they would tell us, oh, there's congestion. Vessels are waiting. Vessels are waiting. Really? What exactly is going on with vessels waiting? So I said, okay, I need to go and learn about why vessels are waiting or what is causing the congestion. And then I think I was fortunate to have walked into the opening in that space at that time when the port wanted to start a commercial unit. And of course, because of the background and the antecedents that I'd laid in my previous job, the first person they wanted to consider for that job without applying for it was myself. When I was called, I was like, no, I don't want to be in that space. I would want to do something else. And he said, no, we want to give you this. You don't even need to come for anything. You don't need to come for an interview. Just come. Because we know you are the one that can do it. So I went into the space, and 1 year down the line, I think 6 months, I drew a roadmap at the beginning, and I said to them, I think I'm tired of seeing the long queue. And those days when you get into the port, you will see very long queue of people waiting to do almost nothing. They will tell you they're invoicing, receipting, whatever. So I said, no. One of the actions on the roadmap is, I don't want to see queue anymore. I would like to see a facility where people don't have to queue for anything. And I remember my boss, who was British, said to me, "Tell me you're on your own on that one. Your people are not ready." I said, I called him by his name and said, "We are ready for it." So I started on that journey and we started drawing it. Within 1 year, I can tell you that indeed Nigerians were ready for it. We achieved 90% within the very first year. And that laid the foundation for electronic invoicing, receipting, and all of those electronic transmissions that's built on that foundation that was laid. Several others that if we want to start discussing, it's going to take a bit of a time. I was told that I've been given 15 minutes for this conversation. So when we talk of gender equality, yes, women should be considered, but we have to be ready for it. There is no way a woman can be considered for a role you know nothing about, or you're not prepared for. Neither do they consider you as well-read or ready for it. Definitely, you're going to be sidelined for the next male, or the male ahead of you, or the next male behind you. Few months down the line, I was called to say, okay, there is a role that had existed for 4 years, and because of the results that had been built within the first year of my working in the organization, they wanted to bring that role back. The role had been occupied by Europeans for many years, and Americans. And they said, okay, you don't need to, there's no need for any application. You earn it. You take it. But that wouldn't have been given any consideration if not that the person was ready and was prepared for it. So, and that was the history behind Africans occupying the head of commercial session roles within Africa for APM terminals, which is my last job. So what are the points I would like to raise here before I go into the digitalization things that I would like to discuss? I've spoken about gender equality. We need to start holding ourselves accountable as women. When we're saying we own it or we should have it, and you have a woman occupying a role for just 3 months, and you're seeing fraud that has never been seen in that organization or observed in 6 years, how can we have it, right? I think we need to start challenging ourselves. I was having a conversation with somebody this morning, and he said to me, in a country in Asia, I was telling him about my experience when I traveled to that particular country, and he said to me, if you had reported it, that person would have been killed within 3 days. I was like, really? He said, yes. I think we need to get to that stage where people who do this kind of things amongst us need those kind of punishment, right? Where you know that whatever actions you take, you are responsible for it, and you are taking ownership for it, and you are going to be penalized for it, whichever way it comes. So that speaks to behaviors when we have roles as women in whatever industry we occupy. Maritime, as we all know, I think is the bedrock of every other sector. And I think I've been trying to look for research papers. I have not been able to see anything that speaks to the number of people that works within the maritime space. I think we should have much more than maybe 50% of the labor in Nigeria. I don't know what it is globally, but of course, all the things I've read says that maritime is 90%. So I would like to, it is a sector that needs to be given more focus across the country, because that's the sector that drives our economy majorly. If they're saying that 90% of cargoes, which is what it is, 90% of cargoes are being moved by ocean, but we don't even have data on how much maritime contributes to our economic variables or economic parameters. I read this morning, I think in the course of my research, that the House of Senate Committee feels that maritime contributes 1% to our GDP, and they want to move it from that 1% to 20% for this year. I don't think it can be as little as 1%, because everything we do within that sector drives everything else in the country and this sector. And we saw that this is an historical trend where towards the end of the year, everything grounds, right? And what is the cause of this? We don't have data. We don't even visualize the data, even if there is. And there is this silo mentality where people just work based on what they have on their table or what they want to do on their table. All the parastatals, there are no exchange of data or real data like that to support efficient decision-making or effective decision-making process. So part of the comment I would like to drive here is that women should start looking into that space. There are not too many people that are within the digital space of this sector called maritime, and of course many other sectors. And it's a sector that has several opportunities for us to start driving change across globally, not even in Nigeria alone, but globally. We need to start looking into how we can bundle figures together to see what is driving congestion on an annual basis, where the economy wastes. What happened in 2018, I don't think we have yet recovered from it. Maybe my colleagues in Shippers Council would have data, but I don't think we are yet to recover from it. Some of us were at the forefront of all of these problems that happened in 2018. Until today, we have still not learned from it. So towards the end of the year, we keep having this problem. It's there again, and of course, it's going to rob our economy of so many dollars that we are looking for. So there's another side of data that I think we should start looking into. If you look critically, most people that work within the maritime space have several health challenges. By the time you retire, very few people will be able to live another 15, 20 years because you've already used yourself while you were with inactive service. So it is very, very important for many of us to critically check ourselves. Our health is very important. You are as brilliant as your brain can take. So if you don't check it at the beginning or before it degenerates, you already lost it when it's 5 years deep. So women, we need to be very, very intentional about our health. That's when you can be active to make a change. One thing I would also say is that it is no longer an era of status quo, right? Where whatever you meet, you just continue with it. We need to start looking into change. Bring intentional and drastic changes. If you don't learn, there is no way you can understand what change means or what change is. Another thing I would also want us to consider is the act of problem solving, where when the problem is arising, you can already spot it. I see these attributes a lot in Indians, where when things are going on, they immediately see it, especially when you put them in positions, they immediately spot it, and they take actions to see that, no, this doesn't fall on me. It's not a strong behavior for us as Nigerians. So as women, I would like us to challenge ourselves. One, to play more, to look more into our behaviors, be more accountable. Even when we talk about gender equality, we need to be sure that we have already made ourselves ready for that role. And like I was discussing with my sisters over there, I said to them that even if as a woman, you would always birth a male, or you would sometimes birth a male, right? So you want your male to still succeed. We also need to be sure that when we are having both male and female, make sure that we should ensure that both male and female they have the right training for them to sustain themselves. I would like to thank my mom for doing a good job on that. She's here with us. I remember when I was young, and I gave that example. When I was young, she would tell me, when a woman is dropping one, you drop two. that is what it is to be a woman of the future. And I will challenge all of us, where we have females or we have males, make sure we start training our children to prepare ahead for the future ahead of them. The future is fast-paced, more than what we are doing today. We also need to be sure that our children can compete with children from China, India, and several other countries. I appreciate the time that was given to me. It's time for us to roll up our sleeves and start thinking more of data-driven digital decision-making, not what we've been doing over the years, where we don't even understand the correlation of the economic variables. The data is there. We need to be intentional about putting all of this together to provide solutions for Nigerian problems. We need to stop blaming the government for it. Each and every one of us needs to contribute to this bucket. Thank you very much. Thank you.